Chapter 3. Are you certain that you don't want to travel via air? Trevin immediately asked Gatria the moment they stepped out of a drow. It'll be more convenient and we could cover more grounds. In half a day, we'll be in Bistrella. Trevin still hadn't given up on convincing Gatria that air travel was more advantageous. Of course, Gatria's answer didn't change. I told you we have to travel on foot. I have to ascertain the condition of the land, the trees, the forests, the animals, and every vegetation I could find. I have to fix everything that has been destroyed while I was imprisoned. Trevin sighed heavily before he turned to Grath, who was just silently following them. Say, Grath, you like air travel too, right? Do not bother with me, Lord Trevin. Grath bowed his head. I was born and raised in the Pacific woodland, so walking is not really a chore for me. Trevin's shoulders fell and he groaned as he walked lifelessly. Why am I surrounded by boring people? He complained and stilled when he saw Gatria glaring at him. What? You are boring. Trevin continued complaining. We could have ridden Vago and reached the nearest town in a few days, then we'll hit a tavern, drink booze, and have fun. Agatria didn't heed Trevin's complaints any attention. She was too focused on surveying the land and trees around them to care. From time to time, she would kneel and touch the soil with her palm to check its condition, and when she felt like it needed nourishment, she would imbue it with her essence. And that was the reason why the travel from Adral to Mistvale, the nearest village in Bistrella, took them 5 days when in fact they could have reached it in a mere 2 days even on foot. Is this really Mistvale? Igrath asked with a frown as he looked at the bustling village. It was more like a small town than a village. Trevin also had a frown on his face. The last time I passed this village, it hardly had any humans living in it. What happened? The two were frowning and confused, but Gatria couldn't care less. Her attention was on the apple woodland beside the village. No, we're going to the village. Trevin firmly held Gatria's hand and pulled her to the village when she was about to go to the apple woodland. We have to know what's going on. Information is the most important part of traveling. Gatria had no choice but to follow Trevin after hearing the tone in his voice. Information had been just as important to Trevin as how nature was important to her. This is a village. Gatria wondered the same thing when they entered, and the village's entrance had guards. Not only that, there were many stalls selling different types of products, from food to meat to fruits. Have I been gone for so long that villages had changed from the villages I know? No, this one is just different, Trevin answered. Come on, let's gather information. Gatria just followed Trevin and watch him work. Work means chatting the merchants on the street while buying what they were selling and naturally talking to the locals as if he was a local himself. Trevin was natural with people, very sociable that he could get anyone to talk to him. Lord Trevin is amazing. Grath couldn't help voicing out his astonishment as he watched Trevin worked. Gatria nodded, yes, that he is. A moment later, Trevin went back to Gatria and Grath to report. Well, Gatria asked, what happened? The Mistress of Flame happened. Trevin answered and told them the information he gathered. After the Infernal Empire's palace was burned and destroyed, the destruction of the capital followed. Only few nobles were left, and they chose to save themselves and their family, of course. Everyone left the city of Faberian that is now housing 3 active volcanoes, thanks to Queen Solal, and now the humans are taking refuge in the nearest towns and villages. After the calamity that befell them, they're still moving forward and surviving in their own way. Gatria pulled down the hood of her cloak to look around the village. Humans are very tenacious and strong. It was because of those traits that Solal took a liking to them. They remind her of her flame, resolute and formidable. Unfortunately, Gatria's face darkened. Their greed also knows no bounds, they have no contentment. They want more and more until there's nothing left for them to devour and destroy. Gatria put her hood back on and resumed walking towards the exit of the village. Trevin and Grath shared a look before they followed Gatria to the clearing after passing the apple woodland where they spent the night. With our pace, we will reach Bistrella after a decade. Trevin was complaining again, a common occurrence while traveling that Grath and Gatria were already used to his complaints. We could have flown, we have Vago, I'm so angry. Egatria finished her simple meal and went to lay on her makeshift bed made of flower petals. Good night, Trevin, don't forget to put a shield around us. Trevin groaned. Gatria, listen to my comp, will you? Even Grath snored. Ah, fuck, I'm surrounded by boring people. The whole night, Trevin grumbled. Complaints after complaints, but there was no use because no one was listening. The next morning, Gatria woke up feeling fresh and energized. She was thankful that Turak enchanted the armor and the cloak she was wearing the ability to clean itself. That way, she needn't worry about dirtying it. There's a river in Bistrella, right? Gatria asked as they resumed their journey. I believe so, Your Highness. Grath answered. Gatria hopped in delight. Let's stop over, I want to take a bath. Trevin heaved a deep sigh. Forget a decade, we'll reach Bistrella after a century. Gatria didn't mind Trevin and just continued walking and hopping while humming softly. The soft breeze in the forest, the smell of trees and foliage, the soft rustle of leaves against each other, and the small sounds the birds and other animals make, it was all very therapeutic to Gatria that even her hatred was forgotten. Nature is really the best, Gatria thought as she hummed and hopped to her feet. Gatria was having fun, Grath was doing okay, but Trevin was close to snapping. Though however much he complained, Gatria would just smile at him so happily and continued walking and hopping. I think I'm going to go crazy in this travel, Trevin muttered under his breath, and Grath, who heard it, felt pity towards the warlord. He was raised in the forest, so this was normal for him, but to Lord Trevin, this was nothing but a chore and a torture. Oh, a cliff, Trevin exclaimed. Yes, it's time to fly. Gatria raised her hand, and in no time, small rocks gathered in front of the cliff to make a staircase so they could safely reach the bottom of the cliff. Grath sighed when he saw Lord Trevin sulking meters away from them and drawing something in the soil as if he had lost his mind. Trevin, come on, stop sulking. Gatria called out to Trevin as she and Grath start descending on the staircase she made out of small rocks. Still grumbling, Trevin used the staircase while pouting like a child. Grath felt pity towards the warlord, but what could he do? As Trevin safely arrived at the bottom of the cliff, the staircase crumbled and small rocks fell just behind Trevin. Gatria? Trevin glared at the mistress of nature. What if those small rocks fell on me? That won't happen, I'm here, Gatria said nonchalantly and resumed walking. Gatria, stop shouting, Trevin, you're disrupting the tranquility of the forest. Trevin shouted. Gatria sighed and turned her head to glance at Trevin over her shoulder. If your noise attracted a beast, I'm not saving you. Trevin immediately became quiet and he ran towards Gatria to walk beside her as if he was afraid of the beasts. I'm sure Lord Trevin will survive a beast attack. Grath couldn't help voicing out his opinion. Gatria chuckled. Yes, of course. He had that indestructible shield after all, but that's all he can do, really defend and run since Lord Trevin here doesn't know how to wield a sword or any offensive skills. Trevin narrowed his eyes at Gatria. Have you heard of a support in battle? Yes, that's me, the best support anyone could ever have. Trevin boasted and Gatria just chuckled, annoying Trevin even more. Meanwhile, Grath just shook his head, knowing that Her Highness, Queen Gatria's twisted humor was focused on Lord Trevin. Yeah, it's better that way. Grath thought and continued following the mistress of nature and the warlord who didn't know how to stop complaining. Treven nearly sobbed in elation when they reached Bistrella in 3 days. After their stopovers in Gatria, bathing leisurely in the river at long last, they were finally close to Ashmire, their entrance to the kingdom of Tretera. I thought this town is for non-human, Gatria muttered under her breath when they entered Bistrella. Why are there so many humans here? Must be taking refuge. Gatria's face darkened as she watched a human kick a demi-human in the face just because the demi-human was blocking his way. Is that how you act if you're taking refuge in someone else's town? Gatria couldn't hold her anger anymore when the man turned his attention to the demi-human's child. Faster than anyone could see, Gatria moved before the human could hurt the child and kicked down human in the head. Without controlling her strength, the human's head got smashed and buried in the ground at the force of Gatria's kick, killing him in an instant. The squeal of fear escaped from the demi-humans who just witnessed death, but Gatria's attention was not on them, but to the other humans who were now advancing towards her to avenge their dead comrade. How dare you kill a human? Show yourself, one human male shouted, his axe ready to attack. Make him pay, another one shouted. Who dare to lay a hand on us just to save a filthy demi-human? Make an example of him. Oh. Egatria let the hood of her cloak fell down, showing her beautiful face as she raised her right hand on the side and summoned her sword from her essence. How are you going to make an example of me, you filthy humans? When a sword appeared in the woman's hand, the humans around her felt a foreboding aura coming from the woman clad in a cloak. Everyone gulped, hesitating if they should attack after that display of killing intent, but in a group there was always someone who didn't think. The two mercenaries moved to attack the woman, but before they could go near her, they were cut in half and they didn't even see the woman moved from where she was standing, and the next moment, she was behind the dead mercenaries. But it was her, the blood on her sword was enough proof of that. Most of the humans there who wanted to teach the woman a lesson stepped back. They saw what happened. They were not matched for her. But the axe wielder didn't think the same and sneakily attacked the woman from behind. Everyone thought that the axe wielder got the woman who didn't even move, but their eyes widened when instead of the woman's back, the axe hit a transparent wall like a shield and it bounced back. Thanks, Trevin, the woman said before ending the axe wielder in one slash. And with her sword pointed down at the ground, she asked, "Come, cross blades with me if you want to avenge your fallen comrade." An invitation that no one accepted. Everyone backed away and ran. Gatria expected that much as she willed her sword to disappear. Gatria walked to the mother and daughter demi-human who were still on the ground and asked, "Are you two okay?" The mother and daughter trembled at the presence of Gatria and couldn't speak a word. Fortunately, Grath was immediately to the rescue, and finally the two calmed down after seeing that Grath was not a slave, but a companion of Gatria. Grath asked them where the house of the town's head is. Gatria looked around at the destitute town. "I want to speak to them about their living conditions." Grath obliged, and the mother and daughter demi-humans hesitantly told Grath where the town's head house was. If Grath was not a demi-human like themselves, they wouldn't have shared it. "Let's go." Gatria prompted and went in the direction the demi-human pointed. It was a simple house. Depleted, but still a little bit decent looking than the rest of the house in that town. They were immediately ushered in after Grath told the person outside the house that they needed to speak with the town's head. And Gatria had an inkling that they were ushered in not because they wanted to see the town's head, but because they were afraid they'll cause trouble. She saw how the halfling's eyes widened in fear when he saw them. News travels fast, huh? After entering the depleted house, they were led to a simple room where the town's head, a white tiger demi-human, was waiting for them, agitated on his seat. I apologize that we couldn't provide chairs for our guests. The town's head tried to explain, but Grath stopped him. It's okay, we won't be staying for long. Our queen just wanted to have a word with you. The mention of the queen made the halfling and the town's head even more tense that he stuttered as he introduced himself. I am called Zacier F from the White Tiger Tea Tribe. I'm currently the Tea Town's head. Gatria pulled down her hood and introduced herself. I am Gatria Valen Balsatra, fourth blessed queen of Ither. Krathika of the Temple of Nadi, the overseer of Azatura and the mistress of nature. Almost immediately, the halfling and the white tiger demi-human kneeled in front of Queen Gatria. Greetings, Your Highness. We heard of Her Highness' escape from the demi-humans in a drow that we bumped into while hunting, and we couldn't be happier. It is our pleasure that you visited our simple town, Your Highness. So you know about a drow already. Egatria stated before nodding her head. Good, I want you to pack up, leave this depleted town, and go live in a drow. Shocked beyond belief, Zacier raised his head to look up at the queen. What? Go live in a drow. You'll be safe there. Zacier still couldn't get over his shock that it was the halfling who was kneeling beside Zacier who spoke on Zacier's behalf. Your Highness, we didn't mean to question you, but are we welcome in a drow? Are halflings welcome as well? Of course. A drow accepts any race as long as you adhere to its rules. Not only you'll be protected there, your living condition will also improve. Now that the city of Faberian had been destroyed by the Mistress of Flame, the humans were now scattered and would come to your town to claim it since that's what they're always good at. As you already know, most of them are entitled and very capricious, so accept this invitation to move. This is for your people's best interest. Gatria thought that the two who were still kneeling in front of her and bowing were silent because they were thinking about her invitation until she heard them sobbing. Worried, Gatria glanced at Trevin, who shrugged while Grath was the one who calmed the two down. We're very grateful, Your Highness, said Zacier with so much fervor. I will gather the townspeople at once and we will head to a drow. The halfling was lost for words and couldn't say a single thing. He was overcome with so much emotion knowing that in a drow he'll be accepted and not be shunned. Even in non-human settlements, they were not accepted. So to hear that a drow accepts any race, he couldn't say a word and just cried in silence. Grath, I want you to stay with them while they get ready to leave to make sure that those humans won't do anything to them, then accompany them to a drow. Gatria ordered Grath, who immediately bowed his head and accepted the order. After you accompany them to a drow, meet us in the town of Ashmire. We will wait for you there. Yes, Your Highness. Then we will take our leave, Gatria announced. It's best that we leave town immediately so those humans won't target you and your people because of us. Many thanks, Your Highness. While Grath just bowed his head and stayed in the house while the Queen and the Warlord leaves. And when it was just the three of them inside, Grath introduced himself. I am called Grath. Blessed by the Mistress of Flame, to show what his word meant, he summoned his flame to surround his claws. I will be your guide and guard. The white tiger, Zacier, had his mouth wide open at Grath's flaming claw. What? Is that even possible? He exclaimed as pointed Grath's flaming claw. A demi-human wielding elemental power was unheard of. Grath smiled and nodded. Yes, I was a slave when Her Highness, Queen Solal, rescued me and gave me a nickname for my name was very long. Through that, she blessed me with her flame, and from then on, I was able to wield flame under Her Highness' tutelage. Amazing, the halfling Kefir muttered under his breath, astonished. And it was his first time seeing a demi-human wields flame. By the way, Grath, can I ask you a question? Of course. Are the queens of Ither really a friend of non-humans? Kefir didn't want to ask, but he wanted to know if that was the truth. Without a sliver of hesitation and doubt, Grath nodded. They are friends with everyone who has no ill intention towards others. Human or non-human, as long as you do not hurt others and discriminate, they will give you their protection. As you know, a drow is a place for non-humans, but there are also humans in town and they work together with everyone. Yes, most humans are vile creatures, but there are some who are decent and honest, though you'll only find that kind of human in a drow. Zacier and Kefir nodded. They couldn't hide their excitement as they planned their move to a drow. Meanwhile, Gatria and Trevin left Bistrella, earning the attention of humans in town. Some even followed them to the forest to attack, but Gatria finished them with no worry. As long as her enemies had no moonlight stone, she could face them head-on, and defeating them was not a problem. And with Trevin behind her, there was nothing to worry about. With our pace, it'll take decades again before we reach Ashmire. Trevin complained again and again and again. He never shut his mouth while traveling on foot to Ashmire from Bistrella. Gatria had to put up with Trevin's complaints for 5 days. He only stopped when they finally arrived at Ashmire, a bustling town bordering the Empire and the Kingdom of Tretera. To the tavern. Trevin even raised his to show his excitement, and he dragged Gatria to the nearest tavern. Gatria just let Trevin drag her until they settled themselves in a nice-looking tavern. This is the life. Trevin was grinning from ear to ear with happiness. Finally, booze and food and booze. Gatria just shook her head and was about to tell Trevin to call for the helper so they could order their food when Trevin held her hand and spoke so earnestly. Gatria, I'm so thankful that we traveled on foot. I am honestly in tears. Gatria frowned at Trevin, who never stopped complaining while they were traveling on foot and who's now thanking her earnestly. For him to change his mind, Gatria thought as her eyes followed where Trevin was looking. I knew it. Trevin was looking at the handsome man sitting on the corner of the tavern. It was hard to miss him since he was the only one who had a blindfold around his eyes. And even at their distance, Gatria felt the ominous aura that only demons had from the man. But the ominous aura was not that dense. That meant he was a halfling, a half-demon. Gatria sighed and looked at Trevin. Is that the half-demon you'd been telling me about? Trevin didn't take his eyes off the half-demon. Yes, what a coincidence. No. It's because we traveled on foot that we met him here. Good thing I was very patient. Gatria snorted. Yeah, keep lying to yourself. But Trevin was too far gone as he faced her. Gatria, be honest with me. Do I look decent and handsome today? What's the fuss? He has a blindfold anyway. Trevin glared at Gatria. How could you be so mean to your best friend? Gatria rolled her eyes. Go and change table. Seduce your half-demon while I'm eating. And just like that, Trevin left her table and went to the half-demo's table. Gatria just shook her head and let Trevin be. He was actually happy for him. It was a first time for Trevin to like the same man for so long. Alone, Gatria ordered food and ate it in silence. But her peaceful meal was interrupted when a man suddenly joined her table and sat on the chair adjacent to her. Gatria had no plan to entertain the boorish man when he spoke. Long time no see, sword goddess. CECELIBCC.